Yeah, hello. A very warm welcome to all of you, wherever you might be tuning in from. It is 7 p.m. Central Time here in the US, and it should be 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Very delighted to have you on again for yet another interesting conversation today regarding the culture, our cultural heritage and identity, which will be presented by Dr. Ole Koissapa, who will be joining us from Oklahoma City. But before then, we want to notify you of an upcoming event on Sunday at 11:20 a.m. Central Time or 8:20 East African Time. Really need to correct that one on KDRTV, and that will be a conversation with Our Excellency Ambassador Dr. Rikana Jihombole Kwaho, who is a former African Union representative to the United Nations and the United States, and she'll be talking to us about engaging Africans or Africans in the diaspora for development of the African continent. So, but before then, for today, we want to engage a conversation with Dr. Koissaba, who is joining us live from Oklahoma City in Oklahoma. So, a very good evening to you, Dr. Koissaba. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Very good, thank you. Let me begin by saying I like your outfit.
Thank you.
Would that also say that I also like your background because it's very relevant to what we're about to talk about tonight, which is about cultural heritage and identity. But for the sake of our viewers, do you mind introducing yourself very quickly?
Yeah, my name's Ben Ole Koissaba. I am a native of Kenya. I'm from the Maasai tribe, from Kajiado, Narok counties. You know, the Maasai do not believe in those pencil boundaries that were put by colonialists, and this is why I'm very passionate about culture. Um, I am just completing my postdoc in advanced research at Langston University. I hold a doctorate in international family and community studies. I also hold a graduate or a master's in social entrepreneurship, postdoc in theology and development from Oxford Center for Mission Studies, and many other, professional certifications.
Oh, very nice of you, Professor Koissaba. But by the way, that's a lot of accomplishment. I think when people hear about postdoctorate, what does that even mean, postdoctorate?
Well, you've done all the other basic things, and you think like you want to do more than that, and you're a PhD. You want to specialize in a certain field, and I wanted to know more about the world, about my people, about indigenous people. So I thought the best way I can know about it is by taking advanced research, and so I can give, I can document empirical research, give Aboriginal knowledge about my people, about Africa, about my country, Kenya. Because you realize most of our stories that have been written about Africa is written by Westerners. I mean, basically Eurocentric. It's Western, and so they tell our story from their own lenses. So I thought, man, it's time when we begin to think about indigenous humanities, where we write our own stories, quote our own selves, and tell our own narratives from our own perspectives, our own cultural backgrounds, from our own context. And this is why I thought the best way I can do it, hey, man, just take another more 2 years, get to learn about it, and, immerse yourself in it and begin to write about it.
Fantastic. I think you're an inspiration to many, including myself, and happy to call you a friend and a colleague. But let's get to the conversation today. And before we do so, I want to thank One Voice Consortium, thanks to the leadership of Dr. Robert Shiuri, and also want to thank my colleague at KDRTV for this partnership so that we talk about cultural heritage and identity. So before we get even to the conversation about this concept of oneness, right? How did this idea of really oneness come into being?
I'm a member of several Kenyan diaspora organizations, and when this COVID thing came, we all became Zoomers, and I just got tired of Zooming with more than 10 Kenyan groups, and I raised an issue with the Kenya Council of Elders, and I told them, can't we look for a forum where we look for cross-cutting issues that affect every Kenyan organization in diaspora, that we can all come together, think together, plan together, and seek to address those cross-cutting issues together. And so, with Shuri and other people, other people that bought the idea, we started discussing about it. And apparently within 1 or 2 weeks, we came up with a strategic plan and we looked at what is cross-cutting. We got more than 10 issues that are cross-cutting among all the Kenyan groups that we think and believe if we all focus on those cross-cutting issues, will add value to every Kenyan diaspora organization. We will have a voice, both in diaspora and in Kenya. And mainly what we look at, if I may look at, three aspects that are cross-cutting. We looked at social, the social aspect. How can we leverage the social capital that we have in diaspora? We've got scientists. We have our people that are sending people to the moon. We have scientists all over. We have people that are involved in developing the vaccines for COVID. We have adequate knowledge that if as Kenyans in diaspora would come together and find a one-stop shop where if a Kenyan needs a resource, they can get it there. That would be a good thing for us. Things like political involvement. We know the Constitution said, the Kenyan Constitution said that, we can vote. We've never voted. But apparently we forget that even where we live in diaspora, we need to have political positions. Because the only way our agenda can be addressed in diaspora is when we have elected position, because politics decides everything. Politics determines everything. So as Kenyans, we don't have to wait to go vote in Kenya, and yet we have numbers here that can vote our people into the local councils in diaspora. So we thought about that, and as some of the things that we need to deliberate. We also looked at technology. The world, with the COVID now, believe me or not, some of those people that didn't believe on technology, you can't do nothing now without technology.
Okay, I think we do have a technical breakdown there with Dr. Koissaba. I think hopefully he logs back in. Again, for those ones who are watching, we are having a conversation with Dr. Pen Ole Koissaba. He's joining us live from Oklahoma City, and we are engaging in a conversation around cultural heritage and identity. That's key, and particularly as is sponsored by the One Voice Consortium, which is a group of Kenyan organization or an umbrella organization for the Kenyans in the United States and actually around the world. So hopefully, as Ben works to get Dr. Koissaba back on the screen to discuss it, I think it's important to underscore the essence of the discussion today, which is about really identifying who we are as a people and why it's important that we all put resources together. So we have an estimated of around 200,000 Kenyans, especially in the United States, and tens of thousands others around the world. So all those Kenyans or diasporas do really face different challenges, but the question is, for how long should we keep talking about challenges rather than talking about the solutions? And that's why, in part, Dr. Pen Ole Koissaba is on here to talk about really the need for One Voice Consortium to get that. And I think part of the highlights from the discussion is really defining the concept of oneness. And I think for those ones who come from the African heritage, understand that in the African context, the science of togetherness is important. So I have Ben. You gotta log back in. Log back in. Okay. So again, that's sorry, we apologize for the technology. It's interesting that Dr. Koissaba was just talking about technology and technology for us. So as I wait for him to log back in, Dr. Koissaba, if you could just log back in, the same login information, click it and get back in. So as I was talking, pretty much the highlights from what Dr. Koissaba is talking about is that concept of oneness. What is the need really of people traveling from one country to another country and then get divided into different groups? Yes? Log back in. Ben should let you in. Okay. Okay. Well, apologies for that, and hopefully get this fixed very quickly. Okay. So I think the technical guys are working on the same. So again, the key point we're trying to underscore here is the concept of oneness. Why is that important? And what Dr. Koissaba was highlighting briefly is how the One Voice Consortium came into place. And he's saying part of the factors that really need to be focused on is the social aspect of it. That in other words, if you're talking about African socialism, Africa really believe in that sense of being together, umoja, oneness, and that's key in bringing all the organizations within the larger African or Kenyan diasporans. Further, it was talking about the need for economic aspect of it. The key point that people have traveled to Western countries, especially here in the US, in part because they need to grow economically, make a living for themselves and their families, and by extension help countries or the homes of origin. And so it's important to talk about why is it that we need to grow together, not just socially, but also economically. Dr. Koissaba was also talking about the need for political aspirations. What he's saying that we do have the numbers in the diaspora, and it really is arguing that there is a need for us to participate in the political process back home, but at the same time, we also need to participate in the political process here in the diaspora. Apologies for these phone calls. Hello? Can you call Ben directly, please? Okay. Sorry. Ooh, it's embarrassing. Okay. So again, as I try to get the technical guys, I just want to highlight part of what Dr. Koissaba is talking about to save time.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry for that. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, apologies. I have no idea what happened, but again, for those ones who are watching, my sincere apologies, and I'm not sure what's wrong with the technical guys. I was just highlighting some of the key points that you're talking about, Dr. Koissaba, and I did highlight quickly some of the concepts, the ideas you're talking about, highlight for our viewers, the idea of social aspect of it, the need for economic prosperity. And I did highlight the fact that you're talking about the need for political participation, not just in diaspora, but also being politically involved in the home countries. And also in our discussion, you're also highlighting the need for us being technologically savvy if we're going to grow and really behave as one people. If you don't mind picking up from there, particularly the technological aspect, and if you could also go further and talk about one or two other aspect you're talking about.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Kari. Yes, I was talking about the world has really changed since the the COVID situation, and whether we like it or not, like they say, it's the new normal. This is the way business is going to be conducted. So we have to be technological savvy, in every aspect, in business, in our family life, and in education. We have to embrace this, and we have to be innovators. We have to create our own platforms. We have to design our own packages to disseminate knowledge and to our people, to our partners. And so it's time we begin to utilize this. And this is one way we are utilizing this. KDRTV and Trump and Hope is giving us it's giving Kenyans in diaspora a lot of leverage in communicating what they think, what they feel, what they want. This is about technology. Well, one other thing that I think it was important for us as immigrants is that we need to begin to discuss about legalities of our immigration situation here. We get bogged down at family level at getting our, we come here, those of us that get papers, the first thing you get is an alien number, like you've come from Mars, So definitely when you're here, you're an alien. That's how they look at you. That's how they treat you. And many of us are not conversant with the law of this land. And so we need to use, we need to leverage the opportunities of our legal minds that are here. We don't know where they are, what specialty they got. So they can help us, because one time when I was in Seattle, I was a translator in court, and it was very unfortunate because out of all the Africans that were incarcerated in jail in Seattle, 51% were Kenyans. It was a very sad situation. It was a very sad situation, for me. And when you talk to those guys, they say, we didn't know. Because when they come here, they don't know. The people they come to don't know. So the only thing that is left for them is to go out there and become prey. And of course, we also have family feuds and all this. But that's one of the other things that we kind of thought that it was important. And of course, economics. I know economics is sensitive, but believe me, if you want to have space in this world, you have to grow exponentially in economics. Because what governs the world is the power of economics, the power of numbers, the power of knowledge. If you lack those three capitals, believe me, you ain't going nowhere. So as Kenyans, we need to begin to think about setting up Kenyan-owned enterprises, Kenyan-owned innovations that address not only our needs here, but address the needs of our people there, And so those are some of the things. I mean, all this is going to come in a booklet because One Voice is developing a booklet that is going to be documented and is going to be shared. I believe we're going to put it online, so you can just Google. I believe it's going to be a free product for Kenyans and Africans in diaspora, to see how we've been able to get where we are.
And of course, apologies for the technical hiccup that has really kind of put that lapse. Obviously, sometimes you understand technology can be problematic. So, One Voice Consortium is putting all these Kenyan groups together. So are other African countries are doing the same, but also we're going to talk about the concept of Africanism. But before we even go further, let's go back to the title of the discussion today, which is culture. What is your understanding of culture?
Well, this is a contested subject because it is much more contextual, and it's geospatial, geospatial. It depends on where you come from. But my concept of culture is it's characteristic. You cannot say this is culture. I mean, like one sentence. But culture is has got characteristics of people encompassing a language, a religion, cuisine, habits, music, arts. So all these things combined together forms what we call a culture.
Yeah.
Then, from that perspective, we go to what we call cultural identity. Cultural identity comes from belonging to a group. It is part of a person's self-conception and self-perception. It is related to nationality, ethnicity, religion, class, generation, locality, or social group within its own distinct culture. What do I mean? We can have big cultures, and we have micro cultures or mini cultures within a culture. Good example, let us use Kenya. We talk about a national culture, which is enshrined in our constitution. But within that national culture, which I am yet to see, we have micro cultures. We have the Maasai like me who have our own culture. We have Luyas, we have Kisis. But within that context, there is that overriding thing, that overriding umbrella called the Kenyan culture. So that's my understanding about culture.
A follow-up question for you, Dr. Koissaba. I do teach a class, culture, legal, and ethical perspectives, and I'm glad you noted that culture is debated. Will you say that culture is static or is it dynamic?
Culture is very dynamic. Culture is very adaptive.
Okay.
Culture is very permissive.
Mm-hmm.
It's permeable. I mean, culture. This is why I said it's contextual.
Okay. So the point is that what I understand you say is that culture is dynamic. So, for example, if I always ask my students what's the American culture, and sometimes the students struggle to tell me what American culture is. That it's that pursuit of happiness, liberty, and whatever that is. So, if you're talking about Kenyan culture, one might wonder what is really Kenyan culture. From your studies, do we have a really national definition of Kenyan culture?
We don't have one, and the reason the reason is specifically this: we are a product of colonialism.
Okay.
And for colonialists to rule over us, they had to take away who we were to make us what they want. And I was going to refer to what they call the Doctrine of Discovery. The Doctrine of Discovery was a statement that was called the Purple Bulls of 15th century, which gave Christians explorers the right to claim land they discovered, like nobody else was living in those lands, and lay claim to those lands for their Christian monarchs. And any land that was inhabited by Christians was available, that was not inhabited by Christians was available to be discovered, claimed, exploited. If the pagans per se, because anybody who was not a Christian then was called a pagan, inhabitants could be converted, they might be spared. But if not, they could be enslaved and killed. And I'm gonna ask all of us to read the book by my good friend Steve Newcomb called "Pagans in the Promised Land." It's gonna give you the whole history, because from 1500 to date, that has been perpetuated by people like Christopher Columbus, who say they discovered America. Man, the Native Americans were already here. How did they discover that? Or like the guys that came and say they discovered Mount Kenya. We were already there, or we discovered like nobody was there. This is what they call in law terra nullius, nobody's land. Because if you are not a Christian then you are a nobody.
Okay.
And this is what has been perpetuated on during the Berlin Conference when they partitioned Africa.
Okay.
You know.
Okay, so let's roll forward, Dr. Koissaba, and then and talk to more specifically the diaspora community, and again, obviously giving relevant example to the Kenyans in the diaspora. So you've given a contextual definition of what culture is, and there are Kenyans in the diaspora who are saying, well, one, I don't have a national culture, and therefore, if I go into another country, including the United States, and if I don't have a culture, and then all I can do is acculturate into the dominant culture's life. So, do you mind talking to our viewers, especially the Kenyans in the diaspora, why should they be culturally sensitive, particularly in a foreign land?
Individuals who immigrate experience multiple stresses that impact their mental well-being, including loss of cultural norms, religion, custom, support system, adjustments to new culture, and changes in identity and self-concept. One of the biggest challenges we have when it comes to America is we do not have cultural education. We all know that going to America, you're going to the land of milk and honey, and you think dollars from the sky. And what we see in movies, and we think, oh my, when I go there, it's just a little lesser than heaven. So we come here with a lot of expectations. And when we come here, especially those of us that come here as grown-ups, we got that culture shock. And not only us as grown-ups, if we bring our kids here, they get that culture shock. Because one, you want to be like them, yet you can't be like them because you're not one of them. This is why when you come here, they give you an alien number, because you can't be like them. It doesn't matter how much you struggle to be like them. You will never be like them. So my advice for us is this. If we know that our folks are coming from Africa, let us be honest with them before they come. Let us give them education about what this land looks like, what they expect, what are expectations. I mean, what are the realities about here? And for those of us that have children here, we have very strong family bonds as Africans. We have very strong community bonds as Africans. Can we try and inculcate that in our children by creating time to tell stories to our children, speaking our language with our children, and having family gatherings, on weekends, on Sundays, because, for you and me, it is so difficult to, like we say in our culture, in our language, an old dried stick, if you try to bend it, if it was crooked, if you try to straighten it, it breaks. If you want to teach me, like I say, you can't teach an old Maasai dog new American tricks. I'm too old for a lot of things in America. Yeah, I can only take what I can take. But for our kids, they have the opportunity to adapt in a manner that they become Kisi Kenyan Americans, because they can never become American Kenyans. They will never become that, because their parents are other people, like you and me. We are old. We came there as old as we are, and we know what we know. Because that is what we call socialization. We become who we are because of our socialization process. From the day a child is born, even before they understand anything, whatever is done to that child, to the time when they're independent, that is what forms that identity of that person. So we need to begin to think at that level. That is for us that are here. We need to have sessions where we have storytelling to our children about who we are, why we are who we are, what brought us here, so they begin to build their foundation from the context of that identity.
I'm glad you talk about. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, yeah.
So here is my take, and I think that's a complexity that we have here. If you're talking about a child, when a child is born, psychologists say the mind is like a vacuum; it's tabula rasa, and what that means that as the child grows, the environment feeds the child. So the child or person's understanding is based on the surrounding environments. So if you have a child born in Africa, that is how that child will see the world, or whatever kind of education they are exposed to. Now, as you grow, what it means, you go to school, you learn, unlearn, and relearn to be somebody. You did also mention earlier about the changes in technology and globalization. So if you come to this country, obviously the environment here is going to make you, of course, being that you have a strong opinion about the worldview. But for our children, they come in, they're most likely to adapt faster to a more dominant culture. And in that process, don't you think we lose our identity? And if we're going to lose that identity, particularly we in the diaspora, what exactly then do we do to make sure that we continue to uphold that identity where we know for sure we're not dominant?
Well, I am not Solomon. I don't have all the wisdom about that, but we together can come up with solutions to that. And one of my suggestions is, exposing our children to those values that hold our identity. Many parents I know, we have a problem as parents too. We have a problem. I'm in America, forget about all the things that in Africa, and, you don't even speak the language in the house. I am a Maasai in America, married to a Maasai. I don't speak Maasai in my house. What kind of child am I bringing up? I'm not bringing a Maasai child. So when that child becomes like he behaves or she behaves in a manner that is not incongruent with the Maasai culture, I get mad with the child. I mean, the child is nothing to blame. I go to blame as a parent. So it's all about parenting. It's all about how you relate with your child. I am a victim of that. I'm a victim of that because I was not able to coach my kids when they came here. They came here when they were over 15, and and they adapted, and they were American kids, and some behaviors I didn't like, and we started all this and all that. Yeah, you see, you have to accept that these children are being exposed to multiple situations that they were not exposed before. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we do. We do, Dr. Koissaba.
Yeah.
Yes, we do. Yes.
So like we say, it takes a village to bring up a child. It doesn't matter where you are. It takes you and your local community, and to create that environment for our children to be able to interact with children from from Kenya, and tell them stories about Kenya, tell them stories about the Kambas, the Kikuyus, and we are so rich as a country in terms of our culture. And these are stories that our children need to know. I mean, like movies that you watch at home, let them watch Kenyan movies, and things like that. When your festivities like Shiori organizes annually, the African cultural festivals, let our kids go watch. Let them see how we dress. Let them see elders talk, and mothers talk, and they cook traditional food, and they serve in those traditional utensils, and let them ask those curious questions. Why are you using this instead of a spoon? Like, why are you using your hand to eat other than a fork? I mean, that's very simple things that we ignore, and let go, takes more of who we are from our children.
What do you say? Okay, cultural identity is important, yes, but you are saying my children have friends, and as you well know, that peer influence is really very important in a child's growth and development. And a child is going to visit my neighbor or my colleague, and the children say, for example, they're Mexicans or they're Americans or they're from European origin. And my children will be made to believe that our culture is inferior compared to the dominant culture of, say, the Caucasians. How do you then, in the house, teach the young kids to really even buy your idea?
That is a very challenging question, and that is very contextual, because it depends on who you are as a parent, and depends on your perception about your culture, what you know about your culture, and your ability to communicate in the right manner, in the right way, in the right context to your children. That's parental care, and we are all different as parents. Every parent has their own way of relating with their children, and all that. But I would do this for me. I would embrace those friends because those are their peers, and they would be very interested in knowing who we are too. You know that they would be interested. Like if I put on my Maasai hat and they come and look at me, how is your dad dressed? They get curious and they want to know. So I tell them stories. They begin to appreciate me and appreciate my culture. So in the process, we both appreciate who we are, and we like each other the way we are.
I know you've talked a lot about family challenges that are caused by immigration, and I know in the last segment I had last week, there was an interesting discussion about family challenges. From your studies, what do you see as the greatest family challenges that we should really focus on improving, so that we continue to strengthen that family unit, which by extension will help us have that larger identity as either Kenyans or Africans?
The setup in the United States is, if you don't work, you go to the street. So all of us work. And so we don't have time together. Probably if you're married, if you're a couple, you don't have time together. That breaks the family. You don't have time for your children because, we've got all these bills to pay. It's a very big challenge. Or, one partner is working and the other one is not working. Whoever is not working seems like, okay, I am responsible. I'm taking care of whoever is not working, and there is that attempt to dominate, command, instruct, because I'm the breadwinner.
Mm-hmm.
And of course we know in America the easiest way to get out of that is 911. You don't even think twice. Like, what are you doing? The next thing I see a police car outside my, and that is it. That's one very big challenge. The other big challenge we have is about our children, because they go to school and they get asked questions. What did your parents do to you last night? Oh, my dad spanked me. What do you get? You get cops at your door because they are probed to say, you know. It becomes a very big challenge to us. And so those are some of the two challenges that I've personally experienced as a parent in the United States, because we have to put bread on the table.
Okay.
So we have no quality time for each other. We have no quality time for our children.
So I know, let me take you through some of the highlights that you and I were talking about. See, and I know you mentioned this before. For example, you say affirming cultural identities. So if I grew up in Kenya and I grew up in a village somewhere in Western Kenya, or Kisii, Masai, Kikuyu, whatever it is, or Nigeria or South Africa, you argue that it's important to affirm one's identity when one speaks their language or express their cultural and national identity. So let's take the language concept, for example. As a professor, I know one of the greatest challenges that most foreign students really encounter is the language, right? So if I speak using my Kisii accent or Kenyan accent, there's those ones who see me as not knowing what to do. What do you say to people who might be concerned about the accent, particularly in the US?
Well, for me, I am one of the scholars that is coming up with what we call indigenous humanities. We are sick and tired of believing that the only way you can write, you can read, is by, writing in Eurocentric or Western ways of doing stuff. Who tells you we are tabula rasa? Who tells you we cannot be quoted? For me, as Ole Koissaba, I am a firm believer that we measure to any standard in academia. And like I shared with you previously, our challenge as African scholars is beginning to tell our stories, our own narratives, in our own feelings, from our own contexts. We've got to speak with the world. They've spoken about us for a long time, and for us for a long time. It's high time we begin to talk our story, to speak about our stories, to write about our stories. And not only write. Remember I told you that one of the biggest challenges we have in Kenya is, look at the curriculum that we have in Kenya. It doesn't talk about us. Everything is alien. I remember during my growing days in primary school, there used to be something called a monitor. That if you spoke your mother tongue, they would hand it over to you and you get punished for that. That is one way of taking away your identity, because if I take away your language, what other way do you have of expressing yourself? Oh, if you must go to Sunday school. You've come to school on Monday and the teacher asks, how many of you went to Sunday school? How can a husband like me that on Sunday I'm herding my flocks go to Sunday school? I'm taking care of my sheep and cows. So I get punished because of that. So it is high time we as African scholars begin to educate our countries, our leaders, to have curriculum that mandates that our languages, our cultures must be taught. Maasai children must be taught about the Kisis, the Kampas, and the Luos. The Luo, the Mageres, and all those other big people in the stories. That is how they are going to appreciate who they are. But guess what? All what the colonialists did is what post-colonial leadership has done. They've even made it worse. Because now, look at parties in Kenya. They're all tribal. We have tribal chieftains. And we think about, we have a unified Kenya. And we think about having a Kenyan culture. That will begin with the children that are going to school now. When systems are changed, when curriculums are changed, and our children begin to be taught mother tongue in the early school development. So when they grow, they can speak their language, they appreciate other languages. That is when Kenyanness will become a reality.
So how does that work, given, and I think I've done some historical analysis of the leadership, especially maybe in Africa, most of those ones in leadership, whether in the social, economic, and political fronts, some of them were educated in the West, or at least they have a Western education. So pretty much their mindset is really that of a Western perspective. So if you are here in the US, the more education you have, the more you are associated to having being successful. If you go back to Africa, you are going with the same mindset. Is that really realistic that at this time in our history, particularly when we are talking about more of globalization, that really policymakers can change the curriculums to fit the African education system?
It is possible. It can work. It can be done. If you're convicted like me, because I believe it can be done, if we make disciples, it can be done. We can change it. We can change it. It is possible. Typical example, colonization was not in Africa. It was in the Far East. Look at the Koreans. Look at all those other countries. Why are they not like Africa? Because you know what they did? They took which was good from the Western world, but maintained their culture. They built what was strong in their cultures and brought that which was good from the West to strengthen them. But for us, we did let go our strengths and accepted something that we don't even know. And then this is why we are lost in the jungle called globalization. We don't know who we are. We don't know where we're going. We don't know what we want. We got to be told. We wait to be told. We wait for the World Bank to tell us. We wait for European investment to tell us. Now we are waiting for China to tell us.
which is interesting. So you also mentioned, Dr. Koissaba, you mentioned here as we run short of time, you are talking about retaining cultural identity. And one of the interesting part that you say is that we need to keep in touch with the people back home or join local clubs so that we are one. So here's a concern that I've always had. Whenever I travel back home, unfortunately, some of my associates tend to see me as being too foreign. When I think I'm going back home, they see me as foreign. So therefore, we really lack a serious conversation. When I come back here, still I'm seen as not being too American. So you're making an assumption that you're educated, but really you're pretty much lost in both worlds.
I think this is very personal, and this is it's much more of your personality and how you're perceived in your community. For example, if I board a plane tomorrow and go to Mas Island, I mean, I am the old Koissaba they know. You know, I get involved in every daily activities that they do. I am not special because I'm in America, and I still do that even now. I spend half of my nights every day on my phone. I'm getting in touch. I am in constant touch with my people every day. And there are decisions that cannot be made in my village without consulting me because I'm a member of that village. This is a problem. The problem is with us that come here because we are in America, we think we are more special than them, and that's what we project. And that's how they take us, because that's what you're projecting.
Okay. Are you there, Dr. Koissaba?
Yeah, I'm there. Are you there? Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, you kind of lost. Okay, so yeah, I get that point. Then what do you say? We're going to have that cultural identity. Obviously, communication is two-way. You're talking about you being in the West, and then what do you say to those ones who are probably in Kenya? Of course, you want to make change, but probably they have not been exposed to this Western culture. How do you make sure that you bring them to the same, so that you're on the same page in whatever you're trying to do?
Let me come from a developmental context because I'm a development practitioner.
Okay.
Development is not westernization. Development is not urbanization. Development is new, better, and more of what you already have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what and that is what I would say. You know, what you already know, what you already have, and what you can already do, if you can make it new, better, and more, that will add value to your life. But when you want to bring something that you're not even aware, you're not even aware of what it is. You don't know how to handle it. You see? This thing called Maendeleo, you know? Man, that's Maendeleo in whose context? You see? So that's how I would say about it.
Good. So let me also, I know I wanted to skip a part that I thought could be, but let me just bring in it because I know it's something you're passionate about and I don't want to be unfair to you. You are talking about the Kenyan constitution and culture, right? How important is that to the concept of cultural heritage and identity? Should the Kenyan constitution be considered in a way that reflects our quote unquote culture? Or what is your take on
It's
that?
enshrined. Culture is enshrined in the 2010 Constitution. It's there. And the placing of culture in the Constitution of Kenya is indeed a milestone. Because Article 2 of the Kenya Constitution aims at ensuring that fullest possible expression of culture and heritage in all facets, including equal access to all cultural, scientific, and technological knowledge, including digital forms. Can you hear me?
Keep on, Dr. Koissaba.
Yeah, so it is in the Constitution. So it is a constitutional right for every Kenyan to practice their culture in all facets, be it scientific, technological knowledge, and including digital. A forum like this, you can start you can start a Kisi station with this, and you broadcast to Kenya. That is allowed in the Constitution. You can be broadcasting Kenyan languages. We can teach Kenyan languages from this. It's allowed in the Constitution. What am I meaning? What am I saying? If our education experts in Kenya went by this, the competency-based curriculum they developed ought to have contained some of this by ensuring that native languages, tribal languages in Kenya are part of the curriculum and must be taught. And people must be examined in those languages. A Maasai child must be asked questions about the Kisi, you know? And that ultimately will bring cultural knowledge about who we are as Kenyans, and ultimately may bring that national cultural heritage. And not only in Kenya, look at what happens in America. When you read the stories about African Americans, man, they are literally nowhere in the history of America. When you try to look around for stories about Native Americans, it's not written. It's predominantly
Yes, predominantly
white, yeah, white, and all that. And this is just domination. And they're using education, they are using religion to dominate over everybody else. And by the way, the education system was not meant to make us innovators. It was meant to make us workers, to serve them.
Okay.
So that's what I would say.
So, sounds like another form of neo-colonialism. Not precisely that, but sounds like another form of neo-colonialism. So let's fall back again to just overall to summarize what we were just talking about. Now, of course, much appreciation to Global One Voice Consortium for the excellent work that you're doing. So, where do you see us? I see we're gaining traction, but where do you see us as a people in the next few years?
Yeah, with the kind of traction we are gaining, I know we cannot answer all the problems that we are facing, but definitely with the kind of communication we have, the kind of interaction we have, we will be able to identify the resources within us that we can leverage to address some of the pressing issues we have. That's number one. Number two, we can be able to leverage our social capital to be able to entrench ourselves in political decision-making positions in diaspora and in Kenya, and possibly be able to even leverage our numbers and our economic status in diaspora to not only invest here, but invest in Africa. Because one other idea that I had, look at the remittances that we remit to Kenya. Who do we use? We use other people's companies. How about us setting up our own company to do our remittances? I mean, very simple idea, but we don't think like that. How about us lobbying for investments in Kenya, for instance? When there are these trade negotiations between the United States or the UK and Kenya, where are we? We are nowhere yet. Some of us are experts in what happens in diaspora, and people that have no clue about what goes on in the markets out here are the people that go on the table to negotiate. What power negotiation to have, yet they do not know. And in business, it's about what you know, who you have, and who you're connected with. Like the other day, they were negotiating that for America to allow, Kenyans to ship and or import, they must allow us to import their plastic to Kenya. Yet Kenya signed a treaty that we don't want plastic. And because of the carrot that they were dangling, I'm not sure where that negotiation is, but you see, that's what they do. But if we have people like us that are here that know these things and we sit on the table, they ain't gonna take advantage of us. We know, we are here, we live the life like them, and so they ain't gonna play with us. We know what they know.
Good. So, good point, and I'm happy that we are having now Dr. Shiuri join in. So before we will bring in Dr. Shiuri, by the way, thank you as you adjust your camera. So there are a lot of Kenyan groups here. Obviously, we have almost 200,000 Kenyans here, first generation Kenyans, and there is second generation Kenyans, and there are many others Kenyans in other parts of the world. One Voice Consortium is doing an excellent job in bringing all Kenyans together. Dr. Koissaba, what do you say to those groups that have not joined One Voice Consortium?
I would say this. I know people have a lot of skepticism, or who are these? Are they taking over who we are? No. Matter of fact, the reason why this thing came is because Shuri can be my witness. We had conversation with the embassy, and the embassy does not know how to deal with Kenyans in diaspora, because everybody goes there and saying they're representing Kenyans. And this is why we thought, can we have a forum where a one-stop shop where when Kenyans have issues, they know where to bring, and we can, as a forum, be able to moderate this and even talk to our government and get to know how we can get over these things. Two, we are saying we have a lot of resources among ourselves that we can share with other groups. We're not, they can go do whatever they're doing, but what is it that we can do in common? What help can I get as Koissaba from them? What can they get from Shuri? What they can get from you? What they can get from the attorneys that we have in the group? What they can get from the prominent and successful business Kenyans that we have in diaspora? It's not about usurping or taking over. It is about what value our addition, our social capital can bring all of us in diaspora.
So as I bring in Dr. Shuri, and I'm gonna, if you don't mind, Dr. Koissaba, just clarify, when we talk about social capital, what does it really mean? I always tell my students this when we talk about social capital. Here's the question: do you attend funeral? Students say yes. Have you attended wedding parties? They say yes. Do you go to church? They say yes. Do you go to weddings? Yes. Do you go to funerals? They say yes. And I ask, how much money do you get in return? They say zero. But then why do you attend what you're really not going to get in return? When we talk about social capital, is there a sense of humanity that when time comes and you need a neighbor, a brother, they will come in your rescue. So essentially, when Dr. Koissaba is talking about social capital, it simply means that all of us, when we come together, if you have a legal issue, and we have the Kenya US Bar Association, we have a group of lawyers who can help. We have a very good professors who can help you go academically, people in corporate. We have Kwitu, a wonderful group of ladies who can help matters that are related to ladies. So clearly what we are saying is that when we put together, there is a social capital part of it. We have great potential that under one umbrella, which is led by the very able Dr. Shiuri, can help. And that said, tomorrow being in Jamhuri, I think it would be absolutely respectable to bring in Dr. Shiuri to talk to the Kenyans in the diaspora. Dr. Shiuri, good evening.
Just before Dr. Shuri comes, I always want to quote the late Professor Mbidi. He said this: I am because we are, and because we are, therefore I am. You see?
Yes.
And this is what we're saying. This is the driving thing of One Voice. I am because we are there, and because all of us are there, therefore I am. We are our brother's keepers.
This is my this is the one
Dr. Shiuri, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Good, good. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Jeremiah Ukari. Thank you, Dr. Ben Koissaba, our One Voice Consortium convener. We are proud of both of you. That was interesting topic, and we really appreciate what Dr. Koissaba has led us here in the issue of cultural heritage and identity. Thank you.
Yeah. And I'm sure you have a message to Kenyans, and as we go into Jamhuri Day tomorrow.
Yeah, yes, absolutely, absolutely. This is our 57th anniversary of our Jamhuri, a day in which we have a lot of attachment in realizing that we gained political independence, and we are working towards achieving more of economic independence. There are other areas that we still need to know that are important, and that's what Dr. Koissaba was enumerating, having even what we can now call cultural independence, nurturing our culture to the full extent that which we are. Because we know that without culture, we can only walk a little distance. But if we want to walk a full distance, we have to really be ourselves. You have to be ourselves mentally, physically, even within your emotional intelligence. You must be thinking like who you are, not like somebody else, because then it becomes very, very difficult to achieve things in a setting where you are not really yourself. So this is a very, very interesting topic for us here in diaspora, because we are bringing up families that are both Kenyan and also American, and we want them to continue appreciating the culture of their parents, the culture of their ancestors, because with that dual cultural heritage, they can be able to be even stronger in the areas that they are in, because they can be able to see the strength of where they came from and the strength of where they are, so that they can be able to walk proudly into the future. So our message here as One Voice Consortium is to continue appealing to our diaspora community to continue nurturing our cultural heritage. And it may be the cultural heritage that is there in the Maasai, in the Luya, in the Kisi, in the Duruma, in the Merus, in the Kikuyus, in the Kambas, in the Kalenjin, and everybody else that is out there. All that is our Kenyanness, our Kenyanness. It is bringing all that together. Because even when you hear somebody is a German, you don't hear of a certain particular region of that Germany. You just hear of that person being a German. So we need to really know that even within our cultural identity, we need to put Kenya first. We need to put Kenya first. We need to know that there is a Kenya cultural culture, which is recognizing that we need to be there for others, recognizing that we need to be there for our country. And that is why we even take a lot of pride knowing that we as diaspora now continue to support our country very, very well economically. We are now remitting almost close to about 20 or 30% of our budget, national or GDP. So this tells you that here in diaspora, we are proud of what we do in continuing to support our country, and we can still continue to do more, because when we came here, we came in as more of people who want to improve their lifestyle and who want to improve their well-being. And in the process, we also have learned that we can continue to help our brothers and sisters back home, and in many ways. So as One Voice Consortium, we know that there is a saying that says, you can walk some distance alone, but if you want to walk far, you go together. You join forces with others, and that propels you to a much larger way. So we are appealing to our brothers and sisters in the diaspora to continue joining us so that we can be able to talk in one voice. This message about culture is also very important because we have realized that we need it because that is the only way that we can be able to be unique in the setting in which we are, and we will continue to appreciate this much, much, much more. I continue to appeal to other organizations to join hands in us so that we can be able to tackle cross-cutting issues that are there in the diaspora. As One Voice Consortium, we have many organizations that are within us. We have organizations like Kwitu, we have the Council of Elders, we have KESA, we have Kenya Christian Fellowship, we have even the Kenya US Bar Association, and many others. I cannot even name them all. But within this, we are almost like about almost going to 50 organizations coming together. And now we are even establishing chapters in outside of US. We have chapters in UK, in Europe, in Switzerland, in the Middle East, in Australia, in South Africa, and we want all our Kenyans to be together. So our message is we can be able to do it. We can be able to do it.
Well said. And I think that's very well said by our very able chairman. I won't add more than that, saying it's Harambe. You know, remember when Mzee Kenyatta was saying, Harambe, let's all, yes. Let's all pull together. So again, that will mark the end of our discussion today. I want to thank Dr. Koissaba. I think, Dr. Shuri, if you allow me share this with our viewers, that this is a beginning of many, many more discussions on different topical issues to come. So Dr. Koissaba started about this topic about cultural heritage and identity, and we have many more to come. Actually, next week on Friday, same time here on KDRTV, we're going to have yet another fascinating discussion that will be with Professor Peter Ndiangui and Laban Opande. We'll be talking about why being a male feminist is empowering. Again, that topic for next week with Professor Ndiangui and Wakili Opande is, I want to say that, why being a male feminist is empowering. In other words, there are those men who support the cause of women, why that is a good thing, it's not a good thing. I think for that'll be very interesting fascination. I hope you all join us again next week. Again, to you, Dr. Shuri, many thanks again for the great work that you're doing. And I think we continue to call upon Kenyans here in the US and elsewhere around the world. I think it's time that we put together as one people, and if we do so, I think we'll do our country back home a lot of proud. And of course, I can't forget to go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Akari. I also wanted to mention that immediately after the session, you'll have with Attorney Opande and Dr. Ndiangui, there'll be another one on Sunday, December 20th, about economic leverage of our people in the diaspora. We'll be having 4 people from our consortium come to your radio station to talk about how to improve and enhance and support our diasporans economically, and especially in areas in which that are important for all of us.
Okay, many thanks. And again, that does not limit others who are not necessarily within the consortium. I know people have reached me through private emails and phone. If there are people who have very topical issues that they really need to discuss with our people, KDRTV in partnership with One Voice Consortium is very open. We welcome those ideas. We really need to use this as a platform where we can exchange ideas. If we don't have that on CNN or Fox News, I think this is an opportunity for us to engage that. And I'm sure sooner than later, we're going to have word from the embassy. So I think unless there's anything else, I want to thank Ben. Ben is always behind the scenes, so I need to always remember to thank him. Ben Kebwato is our executive producer, so he may not be on the screen, but again, he's the guy who's doing all the work from behind the scenes to do this. So Ben, we may not tell you this, but always know that we appreciate the wonderful job you do from behind the scenes. So again, on Sunday, Ben, if you don't mind putting that on the screen, I hope our people come to watch on Sunday when we have Our Excellency Ambassador Dr. Rikana Chiombori, Sunday at 11:20 Central Time. That should be, and that will be 12:20 Eastern Standard Time. But again, we'll update that flyer for those ones in Africa or in East Africa. It will be 8:20 p.m. in East Africa. So again, join us on Sunday when we engage with Ambassador Erikana Chiombori on that fascinating conversation around engaging African diasporans for development, not just here in the US, but also back home. But on behalf of the entire team here at KDRTV, many thanks. Have a great weekend.